Oh, I tell you, you are in for a real treat. I am an ignorant American. That's right, I'm so stupid. I don't know anything. I'm an American. And here in America, I'm gonna sort out in real time the difference between what it means to be Hispanic versus Latino, and on top of that, versus Spanish. Because as an American, I'm just that dumb. So if you're living outside the United States watching this, this is going to be a great video because it's going to be a stereotype of everything you like to mock about how ignorant Americans are. But in real life, and I have no shame in admitting this, I still don't really know the difference between Hispanic and Latino. And I went on the internet, I Googled it, and I'm going to read off the definitions and I'm going to attempt to process this. It's going to be great. It's like watching a monkey in a cage over here of how ignorant as an American I am. But in all truth, I'm very fuzzy on the difference between Hispanic and Latino. And honestly, I think a lot of Americans are too. And from what I understand, Americans, United States, we have our own version of what it means to be Hispanic versus Latino than the rest of the world. And it only confuses things because Mexico's our neighbor. And so many Americans came from Mexico, or their parents came from Mexico, or their grandparents came from Mexico. That's me. Here we go. I Googled it and this is what it said. Hispanic means relating to, a characteristic of, or derived from Spain or Spanish speaking countries. So let me just do a little self-qualifier on me. Okay, so my grandmother was born here in Buffalo, New York. But her parents and all the ancestors before that, Mexico. So she was a first generation American. We would call her a Mexican American. That's what we would say here. So right off the bat, relating to a characteristic of derived from Spain, which she wasn't. It was Mexico. It had nothing to do with Spain directly. But then it says Hispanic can also mean or derived from Spanish speaking countries. Okay, good. We're good there. Because in Mexico, speak Spanish. Now granted, my Mexican grandma didn't speak Spanish because her parents did not allow her to growing up in America, in the United States. They said, no, you can only speak English. We want you to speak really good English and do better here in the United States. We want to provide you with that opportunity. So my Mexican grandma did not speak Spanish. She spoke English. And her own parents really didn't speak English even in their adulthood, or it was very broken. Okay, but either way, am I Hispanic? I mean, I'm ultimately doing a quiz on myself. Am I Hispanic? Knowing that my grandmother, even though she was born here, all of her ancestors came from Mexico, which is a Spanish-speaking country, which by default makes me Hispanic. Because it says related to, characteristic of, or derived from Spain or Spanish-speaking countries. So right there, there's my confirmation. I am Hispanic. And through my heritage DNA test, when I did the test, it showed 21.6% Central American, like Mexican, Native Mexican, however you want to say that. And then, so we've already got that part of it, which, looking at this, that's not related to being Hispanic, but my DNA test also shows I'm nearly a third Iberian. There we go. So ethnically, I relate back to Spain and also a Spanish-speaking country. So in more ways than one, as I'm looking at this definition, I am undeniably Hispanic. If I tried to say that I was not, I would be lying. If I was trying to hide the fact that I was Hispanic, the truth would get out there because people would watch this video when I just admitted it. But again, Hispanic means related to, characteristic of, or derived from Spain or Spanish-speaking countries. Let's move on. What is Latino? So now that I know good and well, I'm absolutely Hispanic. But what does Latino mean? It is a person who is from Latin America. So I live in the United States. This is not considered Latin America. I've been to Canada once. They're not Latin America either. But everything south of the United States, Mexico and all the way down, that's Latin America. So a Latino is a person from Latin America. I am definitely not from Latin America. So by this definition, I am not Latino. But would my Mexican American grandma be Latino? She wasn't from there, her parents were. So my great grandparents that came from Mexico, they were Latino. But my grandma, who was born in the United States, she was not Latino. Am I wrong or right? Correct me right there. I don't know. But if I had to vote based on this definition, when I Googled it, my Mexican American grandma was not Latino. She was Hispanic, and I'm Hispanic, but she was not Latino. Her parents were. Her parents, my Mexican great-grandparents who moved from Mexico to Buffalo, New York, they were Latino. And every generation since then has ceased to be Latino in my family, but we've remained Hispanic. Am I right or wrong? I don't know the answer. I'm the ignorant American. Oh. All right. Lastly is Spanish. And this is where a lot of Americans get confused. So obviously Spanish is a language, but it also is referring to a person from Spain. A person from Spain is Spanish. And that sounds pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, Spanish is a language and it's people who are from Spain. But here's the trickery in the United States. People blend these three terms together. And those are confusing enough that I'm having to make a video on it. And you're watching it. So that proves that to some degree, this really is confusing. And again, my understanding and our definitions in America of all these things are going to be different than perhaps some other parts of the world. Okay? But my point is this. Tom Segura, he's got a Netflix special. And I believe one of his parents is from Honduras, something like that, or Bolivia, and then one parent, I think, is actually from Spain. Either way, when people asked him about his last name, they thought it was Japanese or something. He said, no, it's actually Spanish. And they replied, oh, so you're Mexican. And then he said, no, I'm from Ohio, and explained all this. But basically, he had a Spanish last name, and he had a parent from Spain. But people tend to do that. They tend to think, generically, they hear Spanish, and they think you're from, and going back to my list here, if you're Spanish, then really it's related, they're saying that you're Hispanic. Hispanic is probably the term we should be using for so many things. Because all that means is something about you goes back to Spain or a Spanish-speaking country. Okay. But Latino means you're actually from one of those countries that speaks Spanish in America, but not United States or Canada. So for example, if you happen to be in a part of the world that's not in America that speaks Spanish, let's just say, for example, let's say that in Italy, there's a community. People speak Spanish in that community. So you're from a Spanish-speaking part of Italy. That doesn't make you Latino, according to these standards, these definitions, that you're not Latino. You just speak Spanish. And if you originally came from Spain, then you'd be Spanish and living in Italy. I don't mean to make this more complicated, but I just really have to try to figure all this out. But I think Americans, what they do is they generically say Spanish when they mean Hispanic. There we go, finally. Okay, so a 10-minute video, the ignorant American, the Hispanic ignorant American, trying to figure out these things. So now I understand I'm Hispanic, I'm not Latino, and obviously I'm not Spanish, though people tend to say that about me. And my whole life they've said it about my mom. They're like, oh yeah, your mom's Spanish, right? So now I know. To just say, yeah. Because to explain that to an American, it's not worth it. It's easier just to say that. And it's easier just to say, yeah, she's part Mexican. And Americans will accept that. Outside of the rest of the world, that's heresy. Because people can't stand it if someone says someone's Mexican when they're not actually from that nationality. But see, that's one of the love-hate relationships that so many people have with my channel is that I'm speaking culturally as an American, and I'm being very honest about my lack of understanding about these confusing things. And again, they're confusing, otherwise people wouldn't watch a video that's 10 minutes about this. The fact that you're even watching this shows that you're interested and maybe even a little bit confuse yourself, and you need to clear things up. So, as I always say, as I love to say at the end of my videos, I am ignorant, but I am open-minded. So all the things that I got wrong in this video, put them in the comment section, let me know, enlighten me. And if we can almost make it a contest, which people, especially from probably the nation of Spain, who wants to leave the longest rant, it's so long it went off camera, the longest possible comment you can find talking about how stupid Americans are. But I will say, I've never met an American who believed that Spain was in Latin America, was in Mexico, no. Every American I've ever met fully understood that Spain is, over there in Europe. We get that. It's all this other stuff that we're confused about. Okay, so have fun, comment section, here you go.